Hello and welcome to another Daily Muppet. In today's video, we're going to talk about the preseason game. We're going to talk about some sales and some outs and things like that. We're going to talk about De Gea departing officially, talk about Onana, midfield, potential striker names, as well as cover that Taremi thing and some other stuff. Now, in addition to that, I've got a new little intro here that I think will be kind of funny. So I'm going to play that instead at the advice of somebody, doing this kind of backwards instead of having that stream starting. So we'll see if you enjoy it. Okay, and there you go. So did a little like news broadcast thing and all of that. But yeah, so first and foremost, just to talk about the preseason game real quickly before we dive into things, I thought that was a really nice start and very impressive work overall from United. Some of the things that stood out to me, aside from players, were, I think, one, the setup. You can clearly see that we're moving to kind of that lone pivot with two attacking eights position, which we all expected, and it makes a lot of sense with the Mason Mount signing. So seeing him debut, having him and Hannibal playing those attacking eight roles with Kabi Mainu behind them was really nice. And that midfield, Mount, Hannibal, Mainu, I think those were the three players that impressed me the most of everybody in this game. I think Alvaro Fernandez was also exceptional and really good. And obviously, there's a bit of a logjam at left back, but with Malaysia and Shaw, but there's something in there, and there's obviously value, so something should happen with that as well. But overall, I would really like to. I like that the pressing structure was incredible. The pressing was very high, was very direct. It was very organized, and those are the things you're looking for. You know, execution is going to matter. Obviously, competition matters, but in a preseason game, really you're looking for, do they show me something with these kind of younger players, and what are the structures? Do the structures look good? I thought Ahmad was good, but he still has a little bit of a certain, like, I think he suffers a lot from the same thing that I see with Anthony that is frustrating, where his final decision is kind of poor. He cuts inside, takes too long, doesn't get the shot off, and needs a little bit more with that, kind of makes some mistakes in his final decision making. But he looks quicker, he looks faster, and all of that. I think overall, you know, Kabi Mainu, is he going to get enough minutes? Should he be playing over McTominay? Otherwise, he should go on loan and get a really good, run of minutes. I would really like to see Hannibal stay in behind Bruno, Eriksson, and Mount in the attacking eights, especially if we're moving on Fred and Van de Beek. Then get him in there, make him that fourth eight. I think he needs it. He clearly is going to make it somewhere. He works incredibly hard. You can see that pressing, tackling, does everything you'd ask of him, running back all the way into the own box to save a goal. Movements are good. He's an impressive player, and he's going to make it somewhere, and I hope it's at United. And then Ahmad, getting more time at right wing, I would like to see that too. I really would. I'd like to see Hannibal and Ahmad stay. I think they've got a place, and I think that they could make it. So, all right. So let's move on, and let's move on to what we wanted to cover today. So first and foremost, I know that there's a fair bit of work being done on sales, on outgoing players. One of the things I've heard is that once Rice is finished, it might go and start to move with McTominay. It might start to move with Maguire, but it is less likely at this point in time that Harry Maguire will leave the club. He wants to stay. He wants to fight for his place. He's also on big wages. United would need a pretty well of a premium to, get somebody to replace him, to sell him, and have it not be a loss, I guess, a financial loss, and have it make sense, and also to replace him with a player of the requisite quality, because regardless of your criticisms of Maguire and the troubles that he's had, playing in front of a more proactive keeper is going to make a difference. I mean, look at how far up Tom Heaton came in here. There was a moment where, they pretty much threw in behind. There's no pace that's going to matter there. But Tom Heaton came up, cleaned up the mess, and all of that. So I don't know that he's going to move, but McTominay certainly could. And we'll talk about the targets there later. Anthony Elanga is expected to go, as I mentioned in a previous video. He's expected. I don't know where. There was a link to Everton. That's probably a good potential landing place for him. United need to get some sales there. A couple youth deals might go. Some of these other young players that we saw today might be going out. Will Fish is going on loan back to Hibernian. But and United got another $1 million from the Chong sale today, $4 million to Luton. I don't know. Anyway, they need some more. They need some more. A lot of stuff is expected to slow down a little bit here if there are not more departures coming through. That's just the reality of it in terms of the funds, in terms of what's presented and what's available. Some sales, some departures would really go a long way in order to assist in things moving forward, and assist in more purchases and in more direction and in more things happening. It would go a long way for that. So moving on to that, obviously David De Gea has departed, so this clears $375,000 in wages. Again, you're going to see a lot of varying kind of takes on what the situation was, what happened, where it went. Obviously, where I stand and what I've said has occurred. United had presented kind of a deal on the table to him that was more incentivized earlier in the season, but then there was agreement not reached, and this is kind of backed up by, sources at the club and reports out there that they didn't really reach agreement with him. That's United's kind of stance on it, and what a lot of sources claim. And that my understanding is through the year, the performances, they always wanted a first choice keeper. And so Erik ten Hag was like, okay, we could keep him a second choice, incentivized. But in evaluating the finances and evaluating his performance, it became even clearer. Look, I'm not even sure about that. And you're definitely not going to be first choice. So the deal was even more incentive based, lower. They came back to the table and essentially decided, go. This isn't a good fit for everybody. And obviously, publicly it looked difficult. Publicly it looked a bit odd, but it really wasn't that bad, frankly. It was just the performances and the situation of the club changed the circumstances from where they were earlier. And obviously, I think it could have been handled a little better publicly, but they didn't know. They didn't know, honestly. And right down to the end of the year, the final performance in the FA Cup was a factor in Erik ten Hag saying, you know what, I don't even know if we want a contract at all on the table. And as I heard it as of a few weeks ago, there was no contract on the table at all to be signed or to be agreed or anything like that. And they weren't even necessarily a discussion, but had just decided to get together and essentially, moving forward said, this isn't going to work. This isn't going to be it. Okay. So it's obviously, a long-standing player. There's a lot of years that De Gea was a really great player for United, but simply the driving thing behind all of it, end of the day, was Erik ten Hag wanted to take the style of the team forward into a more modern style that David De Gea did not fit. Okay. And that's the reality of it. So he's departed. And obviously, as you've seen, Tom Heaton is our #1 goalkeeper going into preseason, with Dean Henderson expected to depart, which would be a big sale. But that's not going to happen until this next deal is wrapped up, which is Andre Onana. Now, last week, everyone thought the deal's about to be done. It's about to be finished. And I have repeated, even though it's somewhat negative, it was not imminent and it was not that close. And the price still needed to be moved. And United's perspective on it is that there was mostly pressure from Inter being leaked to public people and reports and things like that to make it seem closer, to put the pressure on the club, with the knowledge as well that obviously David De Gea was being departing. Even as of Saturday and Sunday, it was not imminent. And there's been some progress, but certainly still nothing on the cusp of happening over the last few days. The basic understanding here was Andre Onana is set to return tomorrow on the 13th, and the clubs in talks that were positive had agreed they plan to get this done. They've had discussions with the player and his agent who wants the move, and they plan to get this done in time for him to, on return, be able to join up with United pretty directly and go on the US tour, which is still a week away. And that's what they're looking for. He's obviously going to fit right into Erik ten Hag's side. He knows who he is. He knows how he plays. I don't think it's that difficult for a goalkeeper to get in there. The situation remains as such. They need some compromise on fee, and that could happen. But as I mentioned as well, one of the main structure issues was they wanted a bit more upfront, and the nature of the add-ons, wanting United looking for a bit tougher add-ons like they went through with Mason Mount versus something simple like 20 to 30 appearances for 5 million euros. United were not set to agree to that. So in reality, even though 45 plus 5 looks like 5 mil off of 50 plus 5, they're more like 10 because the 5 million was not agreed at all. And they moved closer on that, as I understand it. United were not really wanting to go above 50 million in guaranteed fee. They might do that if it was a flat fee or if those extra add-ons were really, really difficult. But I think we're going to end up seeing, if this deal happens, which I do think it will in the next couple of days, compromise is still needed from Inter. And that's what it's going to come down to. It looks good, but unless Inter are willing to compromise, then the deal will stall and the deal won't move forward that quickly. And, you know, it should happen in the next couple of days. I do expect them to compromise, and United expect them to compromise, and everybody expects to get the deal done pretty quickly now, but that still has to happen. And it's not a negative take. It's just the simple facts of the situation. United are not just going to throw away money on it. They feel that a compromise is necessary. And so I expect that will occur, but it hasn't yet, right? And so that could be happening at any time, with talks expected today and tomorrow. United are going to make a new proposal that includes kind of basically their final offer on this, and they expect that Inter will accept it, but it's going to be an offer that requires compromise from Inter. That's the simplicity of it. United are doing and holding strong on the negotiations, and it is important for them to do so because, again, the budget isn't unlimited, and as we can see, we need a striker. We need a striker. We really do, and we'll talk about names in a minute. Moving on to the midfield, there was obviously a little bit of talk about Sofyan Amrabat, and that is a name that I've been kind of talking about for months and months now because, you know, as I understand it, United are interested. They were interested in January, and the whole thing was if he's not going to go to Spain, then he would prefer to go to Barcelona or Atletico Madrid. Then he would certainly be open to joining Ten Hag at United. There's been talk of if Fred moves, they'll bring him in. That may be the case, but I'm not so sure about that. I think that departures of other players like Fred are going to potentially go towards that striker budget, and you're going to need McTominay to move to see him come in there, which is a bit more of his position, is a bit deeper. I'm not positive on that. It's not always a like-for-like type of scenario because McTominay can shift into a box-to-box role too, and Amrabat can as well, frankly. But I think that's the most realistic target. That's always been, as I've heard it, the most realistic target for that fourth priority, which is a deeper midfielder. But it's going to come after striker. It's not imminent. It's not soon. The other name, obviously, Lavia, and as I understand, is the same as it was before. United have had discussions around a player. They've checked in with Southampton as to his price and as to payment structures, and right now decided it's too expensive. And that's just the reality of it right now. I don't expect that one to happen. But Amrabat certainly could be looked at after the striker, after some departures, if there's still money available late in the window. He's not the only player on the list there, but a lot has to go right for certain potential other targets to come to the forefront in terms of budget, in terms of money, in terms of sales, in terms of all of that. And as we know, including the takeover, frankly. For there to be the money for some more significant players in there. So that's kind of the situation in the midfield as of now. So moving forward, the last thing I want to mostly talk about is that striker situation. Obviously, there's the talks with Rasmus Højlund, who remains the top target and is one that they hope to get done. But if that price does not come down to a very reasonable level, and if United cannot get to it, there are a couple of potential other options and things that should be discussed in this. Number one is, as I understand it, Balogun's agent is essentially knocking on doors and saying, are you interested in this player? United were interested in him as a young player. I think he's a great signing, actually. I think he would be a fantastic player to bring in. Young player, high potential. established as scoring goals in League One. Probably pretty low risk. I don't know. He could be the striker you sign this year, where you could still sign probably another later, but he has the high potential. He has potential. So he's been kind of being offered around, and we'll see if, United can turn to him if the Højlund deal does not move ahead. There's obviously been a lot of talk as well about João Felix on loan. And as with in January, there is interest in it. There is interest in it. He is there, but it's a difficult deal because it's expensive, and Atletico are looking for a sale, and it's likely to be something that would happen late in the window. If so, he'd be open to the move, but I don't think anything imminent or particularly overactive on this, but he is interested, and there is interest from both sides. It's an expensive deal. It costs a lot. It's probably a 20 million loan deal, frankly, over the course of a season when you factor in his heavy wages. It's not cheap, and it would probably be more of like, we can't get a striker at all. Let's get João Felix in here. That would be the concern with that. The other thing, to be discussed is, of course, that I want to mention is here's Mason Greenwood, because obviously there was a story about him being set to have a medical in Atalanta on Tuesday, and as I understand it, this was totally not true. I asked about this, and really what I was told is that there had been no decision taken on him getting a loan versus staying at the club, and the other options that are on the table, and that hasn't been finalized yet. And the Atalanta link was very, very speculative and likely coming from the other side of the coin. So it's more a matter of, as I said there, it might be being explored. Could he go on loan? Are there options out there? Those types of clubs, Atalanta, others saying, hey, we'd be interested in taking him as a part of a deal, but no decision has been made. There's obviously a picture of him floating around training with Elanga in Dubai and such, but no decision's been made. And there's a lot of rumors floating out there that I don't want to necessarily get into, but yeah, that was the state of things. No decision has been made. Definitely hadn't been decided that he go to Atalanta, nor anything imminent on that front as well. And the final one to discuss, there was a post of someone related or close to Taremi, the striker Taremi, apparently at Old Trafford, and I was able to I would ask my sources about that, and what I'm told is that they don't really know much about it, but there's absolutely nothing advanced with Taremi right at this point in time, okay? I do think he's a name that's on the list, and maybe really, really basic exploration of the agent just to say, hey, here's a player, here's what's happening, here's what he might be looking for, but there's nothing advanced on it. If anything, basic conversations. Not advanced, not imminent on that front, not in the works as like some deal that's about to occur or anything like that. I will still say keep an eye on it as a player, but definitely been told nothing advanced on that front. So as it stands right now, obviously preseason kicking off. Erik ten Hag comments about hoping, at least one youth player breaks through. I'm really hoping Ahmad and Hannibal stay around. I really like Kabi Mainu. I just want to make sure he gets a lot of minutes because he's got something really special. And he's yet to have that first team kind of loan. So he should only stay if he's going to significantly play, frankly. And it's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure. As good as he is, it's a lot of pressure. So I'm hoping Hannibal and Ahmad stick around. And Alvaro Fernandez gets a great loan. Again, Kabi Mainu may be a great loan. And we'll see more of these players as they go. And, if United end up buying like Onana and Suzuki, Kovar, we might as well get a good chunk of money for him. He's a good player, real quality, but if not, keep him as the number 2. I'd be open to that. He may want to play and get a lot more minutes. It's probably likely after he's already seen first team football than just be a backup, but that's part of the challenges you face. So let's see in the next 24 hours on Onana if something progresses as he's set to return to Inter, if this final bid that United are looking to propose gets accepted. And that'll obviously move things forward. But then we're going to start needing to, I think, see some outs happening until, before we see more ins coming in. Okay. All right. That's what I've got for today. Thank you for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications on, and I will see you in the next one.